Dr. David Chao joins us, Pro Football Doc and OutKick contributor. Great to have you on. Hope things are well.
Doing fine. Thanks for having me. I caught the tail end of that. I'm for any and all holidays.
There it is.
I feel like if you're in politics, Dr. Chao, that you could very easily just start pushing bills across about holidays you want to present, and you can become very popular that way, right?
Sounds good to me.
Patrick Mahomes says that there were no setbacks in the AFC Championship game, that it's a pain tolerance issue at this point with the high ankle sprain. What has this process been like from what you've observed, what you've heard, what he said, and what's this week been like for him in anticipation for getting to Arizona and playing in Super Bowl 57?
Yeah, I mean, the previous week was quite the roller coaster, right? I mean, oh my gosh, here's his ankle. Oh, he stayed in the game, no big deal. Oh my gosh, he went to the locker room. He's done. Oh my gosh, he's back, but oh my gosh, he didn't play. But then he came back in the second half. We wrote about it at OutKick through Sports Injury Central, et cetera. And what we said all along is there's no question this is a high ankle sprain. And then, heck, on Monday when reporters said it was a high ankle sprain, the line flipped and moved. Look, not all high ankle sprains are the same, and there's different degrees. There have been 5 quarterbacks this season with high ankle sprains. One has played through, now 2, and the others have missed some time. But no offense to some of the other quarterbacks. When you're Mac Jones and you have a high ankle sprain and you're 70% healthy, Bailey Zappi gets the start. When you're Patrick Mahomes and you're 70% healthy, you're starting in the AFC Championship game over Chad Henne. Now, did he run the ball? No, not at all, except that 1 4-yard run at the end there that was very key, and he got the penalty. But what we said all along is he could be mobile enough in the pocket, and he has the arm strength to be able to throw. And he's one of these unicorns. All the time he wrong foot throws off his left foot, jump throws, changes his arm angles. And that's kind of what helped him be effective with his injury. His mechanics were off, but to him, his mechanics don't matter that much. We don't think he aggravated it. We came into the last game, conference championship game, saying his Sports Injury Central 6 score is 84 out of 100. And 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 105.4 quarterback rating, I think is 84% of Patrick Mahomes. Imagine if he's 100. Now, he's not fully healthy. He won't be fully healthy for the Super Bowl, but he'll get halfway there between now and the next 2 weeks. So I'm not really worried about the health of Patrick Mahomes. Of course, you can always get it landed on wrong and re-aggravated.
You mentioned he can get halfway there over the next 2 weeks. What would the course of care look like in this 2-week period? Because the moment the Chiefs won, Doctor, the first thing I'm thinking is, what is the next 2 weeks going to look like for Patrick Mahomes? How much healthier can he get for that Super Bowl? What would that look like, the process to get ready for this game?
The Chiefs medical staff has done a great job, but I've had the fortune of working as a host physician at 2 Super Bowls. I never have worked as a team physician as a Super Bowl. But what my colleagues always tell me is that there's some magical healing powers in that off week before the Super Bowl. Everyone's lobbying to play and be healthy, and it's an all-in game. So lots of rehab, stim, hands-on table rehab. Look, I think he's going to be fine. Like his 84, we're going to put it at about 91. He's going to get better and better. Going into the game against the Bengals, everyone was talking about Mahomes, and we kept saying we're more worried about the Bengals' offensive line health than Patrick Mahomes, and that obviously worked out to be the case with 5 sacks, a bunch of holding penalties, 12 quarterback hits, etc. And in the end, that probably was the biggest difference in the game.
Have you noticed any lingering issues with the shoulder of Jalen Hurts in the game since he's returned?
Well, do I think he's 100% where he feels nothing? No. Do I see any lingering issues on the field or otherwise? No. It's something, he's healthier than Patrick Mahomes. Now, people are going to point to, well, he didn't run the ball. He's afraid of contact. He's still hurting based on the 49er game. But if you look at the pass rush of the 49er game, it was a contained pass rush. They weren't going to let Jalen Hurts beat him. Greg Olsen singled out during the broadcast, look at Fred Warner. He's staying put. He's staying put. Why? Because he's saying, I'm making sure Our scheme is that Jalen Hurts isn't going to beat us with the RPOs. So he didn't really run the ball. And then they had a big lead in the second half, and he probably was told, don't risk it. That doesn't mean his shoulder's not healthy. I think his SC joint is fine. You've heard my confidence about Patrick Mahomes. I'm more confident about Jalen Hurts being healthy than Patrick Mahomes.
And in front of him, the offensive line, what do you think of the status of Lane Johnson? And among the topics with the officials last weekend, many fans were observing, it looks like he's a false start every play. Lane Johnson was one of those they were pointing out. How much of that is due to the injury and the fact that he's going against Nick Bosa?
Lane Johnson was our biggest worry last week and will be our biggest worry for the Super Bowl. Remember, he has a core muscle injury that needs surgery, and he's trying to play through. So kudos to him. Landon Dickerson will be fine. That's a hyperextended elbow. That's been confirmed. He'll play with a brace. But you're right about the potential close to offsides. But why? He's going up against Nick Bosa, who's like a jaguar, who's like basically horizontal to the ground, trying to get around the edge and beat him. And he can't get out there as quickly with the core muscle. So he jumps the snap count right the second that it is. I don't think he was offsides, but that's for referees and people to judge. But what happens next? He takes his pass set is at least a yard deeper than the left tackles because he really wants to get back there and get ready and cut off the angle for Nick Bosa. That was smart on his part because he knew about his injuries. But then what happens? At least a handful, if not 10 times, Nick Bosa actually knocks him a step or two back towards the quarterback. And then it seemed like he stopped, like it was a contain rush. And how many times do you see Nick Bosa knock a guy a step or two back and not finish the play? It seemed like that was the scheme. Stay in your lanes and don't let Jalen Hurts beat you from running the ball. And I think that might have helped let Lane Johnson off the hook. I'm going to be very curious in the Super Bowl what the strategy is with the Chiefs, with Chris Johnson, who's pretty good at the bull rush, and Frank Clark, and where they line up. Kudos to Lane Johnson for playing through. I think Mecole Hardman has a core muscle injury too, and I think it's dubious that he'll play through, not because he's not tough, but a skill speed position versus someone on the offensive line.
Dr. David Chao is the pro football doc, and he's also an OutKick contributor. Joins us on OutKick 360. Brock Purdy's elbow and the potential for Tommy John surgery. What's the timeline with it and without it for recovery purposes?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. It's quite a quarterback conundrum for the 49ers. And actually, we talk about it on the Pro Football Doc podcast hosted on OutKick, a lot of these topics. San Francisco's conundrum is this. They had three main quarterbacks on their roster, Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Jimmy G. The healthiest quarterback coming into this offseason is going to be Jimmy G coming off his broken foot. And it's pretty clear they don't want him back. The coach has said so. The second healthiest guy is Trey Lance, a mobile quarterback, ankle fracture dislocation. In the next month or two, will return to OTAs and practice. But can you guarantee that he'll be 100% mobile? He may only be 85 or 90. You have to wait and see. And then finally, Brock Purdy, the leader in the clubhouse to be the starter, is having some sort of Tommy John repair, maybe not reconstruction, but it's still throwing elbow surgery. There is no guarantee that he'll be 100% in 6 weeks. Even if he is 100% in 6 weeks, he's still a young quarterback. Not having any of the off-season program may be an issue. And what if he takes a little bit longer? If you're John Lynch and the 49ers, and I love John Lynch, he's a San Diegan, I'm glad he's a Hall of Famer, the whole deal. But that's got to be a lot of sleepless nights. You have a team loaded for bear to win the Super Bowl. The quarterback position through injuries let you down this year. Can you really afford to roll the dice and say, I'm going to go into next football season without 100% assurances of health at my quarterback spot? It's an interesting question and dilemma for John Lynch and the 49ers.
The NFL changed its concussion protocol mid-season, and now we learn that concussions were up this year 18%. Is that cause for concern, or is that part of the change that was made with the attention to the protocol?
I think you're right. Attention to the protocol. The change to the protocol, I think, was very minor. It was really kind of always there. It just stated differently. Look, a lot of things when you notice. I mean, look, when you have Jalen Hurts injured and Patrick Mahomes potentially injured, all you talk about is the quarterbacks. You forget about the offensive line, right?
Mm-hmm.
You forget about the defense and whatever. And I think part of it is attention because of Tua. But we know the country has gone through the last few years. And I commented on it at OutKick and otherwise, and it's not being political. But a couple years ago, there were a lot of "you got jacked" hits, and social media never got excited about it. The number one target was COVID, 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 COVID. Now that COVID is no longer the number one target, we flip back to concussions and Tua and the targets and so forth. And so that awareness is part of it, on part of players, self-reporting symptoms, on the part of referees, on the part of the spotters in the sky, on the part of the medical staff, on the part of the red hats. So I suppose it's not a huge surprise, but we have to analyze the numbers. There may be just some statistical difference as well.
Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chao, OutKick contributor. Check out the podcast there as well. Thank you so much. Great perspective, and I'm sure we will cross paths in Arizona next week.
I'll see you next week at Radio Road.
That's great.
You guys.
That's
Love
wonderful.
to have you on. Thanks, Doctor.
All right.
Dr. David Chao, always a great guest, great perspective, and a good perspective there on all the quarterbacks discussed.